Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start our conference. Please take your seats. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this conference on behalf of Sofia Security Forum. I would like to express my personal satisfaction that we have so many distinguished persons in the audience, because the topic deserves our attention and our analysis. Today's event is dedicated to the NATO's approach to the Black Sea security. As you see, we have excellent speakers. We have Atanaza Preanov, Deputy Minister of Defense of Bulgaria. We have George Magero, Ambassador from the New Strategy Center of Romania. Ambassador Tăcean Ildem, Chairman of EDAM, think tank from Turkey. We'll have VTC, Alexandra Antakoiu, from NATO Public Diplomacy Division. We have Velizar Shalamanov, well-known Bulgarian analyst from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences and former Minister of Defense of Bulgaria. And we'll have Matthew Boyce from Hudson Institute, Center for Europe and Eurasia from the United States. He will join also VTC. Please, ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. Dear Deputy Minister Zaprianov, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow colleagues from EDAM and the New Strategy Center, welcome to this third meeting of the consortium of 3 think tanks from Bulgaria, Turkey, and Romania. We are part of the project supported by NATO Public Diplomacy Division. And I would like also to mention that this particular meeting in Sofia is sponsored by Konrad Adenauer Foundation, long-standing partner and ally of Sofia Security Forum and other think tanks here in Bulgaria. The 3 think tanks from Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey decided to join efforts and work together to analyze the Black Sea security in its complexity and to elaborate a paper which will show the role of NATO as a security provider in the region. We already had meetings in Budapest and in Istanbul, and this is the 3rd consecutive meeting. Through implementation of this project, we would like to send a clear message that Black Sea security is of crucial importance for the European and global security, that NATO has to play a bigger role in providing security for its member states and partner countries. The alliance must take necessary measures to increase defense capabilities to ensure fulfillment of 3 core missions of NATO: deterrence and defense, crisis prevention and crisis management, and cooperative security. We also want to send a message to governments of Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey that the 3 littoral countries should work closer together in strengthening and searching for solutions how to strengthen our security and security of our region. Black Sea is a highly contested region with many players and many stakes. It is perhaps one of the most contested regions in the world today. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is the most serious risk to global and regional security. This is a direct threat to the security of the Euro-Atlantic community. Russia has concentrated huge military potential in the region, creating a two-AD system. Russia is not only aggressive in its rhetoric against NATO, but is also acting irresponsibly and aggressively against NATO countries. Russia is impeding the freedom of navigation and tries to impose its own interests in the Black Sea by force. Russia is redrawing the borders in the Black Sea and threatens economic activities of the countries, including the exploration of energy resources. At the same time, NATO capabilities in the region are insufficient. Turkey has the most advanced military capabilities among NATO littoral countries. Bulgaria and Romania are implementing modernization programs, but to substantially increase capabilities will require time and resources. But threats are already here. The only way is to work in the NATO framework to reach the necessary level of capabilities relevant to the level of threats. And we have to discuss together modalities of the NATO's role in the Black Sea. Let's not forget that we have a very complex security environment, which includes not only the war in Ukraine or against Ukraine, but also frozen conflicts, and new risks appeared as a result of the Russian activities in the region and the Russian war on Ukraine. Let me briefly mention some of these new risks. First, there's an unknown number of sea mines located along the coasts of Ukraine and Russia. Some of these mines are now floating freely in the Black Sea, endangering navigation and other economic activities. We have oil spills that threaten the ecological situation. The Black Sea is closed sea, and spills could turn into an ecological disaster. We all know about the destruction of the dam of Nova Kakhovka and possible impacts on the Black Sea environment. Every war is a source of weapons for the black market and for the illegal distribution. We are particularly concerned about possible smuggling of small arms and light weapons, including manpads. On the next, we all know about the risk associated with the management of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Explosives and ammunition are associated with spread of toxic gases and particles. Fires in the forests caused by military activities damage the entire ecosystem. The weapons used during the war are raising the carbon footprint in the region. Russia is attacking military and civilian infrastructure. Multiple industrial facilities, warehouses, factories have been damaged or destroyed, some storing a range of hazardous substances. Russia is targeting also Ukraine's water infrastructure, including pumping stations and purification plants. There is a large volume of military waste, including destroyed military vehicles on Ukraine territory. This creates a major cleanup challenge. The use of explosive weapons in populated areas also creates pollution from building materials, including asbestos, metals, and other materials. On the first day of invasion, gamma radiation in Chernobyl zone was reported to be approximately 28 times the annual limit. This was as a result of heavy vehicle movements in the region. There are many outdated coal mines in the Donbas region, and these mines pose huge danger in Ukraine. Because when a mine is shut down, it cannot be abandoned. Huge amount of landmines are planting on Ukraine territory. This is not a complete list of risks resulted from the war of Russia against Ukraine. The risks affected us all. Russia uses all possible means to wage a hybrid war against the countries from the region. And we shall not make illusions that this can stop. Russia will seek to use all hybrid means to fulfill its goals. These activities include disinformation, propaganda, cyber attacks, provocation at sea, coercive use of political, economical, energy, information, and other means. Countering hybrid activities should enhance individual and collective resilience against all possible threats. To that end, NATO shall increase capacity to prepare for, resist, respond to, and quickly recover from strategic shocks and disruptions, and ensure the continuity of the alliance's activities. Special attention should be given to building capacity to counter cyber attacks. At the end, let me very briefly give some principal recommendations. First, we think that NATO should adopt a comprehensive strategy to address all these risks. NATO and EU should play more, should pay more attention to the region and complement each other's activities. Bulgaria should elaborate its own strategy on the Black Sea. I hope that we'll have soon more active and visible Bulgaria in the region. Capabilities is a key issue. Bulgaria shall reconsider its approach according to the NATO's new political guidances and to focus on building capabilities that will strengthen the capacities to counter threats in the Black Sea, meaning better coastal defense, better air defense. We need drones, better intelligence communication, better foresight. On the third place, I believe it is very important to strengthen the regional cooperation, and Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey, as well as partner countries, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, have to work much closer and to work on coping with the current risks and threats. I welcome you once again and hope that through this conference and discussions, we'll come with some practical recommendations, and we will move much closer in our way to counter risks and cope with them. On this note, I would like to invite Mr. Atanas Zapianov, Deputy Minister of Defense of Bulgaria, for his introductory remarks. Thank you.
Dear Mr. Buzilov, dear Ambassador Evudem, dear Ambassador Magero, dear friends from NATO Public Division, dear Mr. Boyce, distinguished guests. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to participate in this important forum. I have the pleasure to welcome representatives of the EDM from Turkey and New Strategic Center from Romania. Holding of this meeting is a confirmation of the importance that we attach to the security in the Black Sea region. With no doubt, the development of the processes in the Black Sea region is key for the Euro-Atlantic area. Therefore, we have always believed that security in the Black Sea is possible only with the collective efforts of NATO and the European Union, and we contribute to these efforts. Actually, a Bulgarian effort in this direction started many years ago, 20 years ago. Russian aggression in Ukraine has complicated the security environment, deepened the processes of instability, and changes the geostrategic and military balance in the Black Sea region. Bulgaria supports Ukraine, along with allies, to defend itself in the war with Russia. As a Black Sea country, Bulgaria is deeply concerned by the increase in military capabilities of the Russian Federation, and in particular by the growing militarization of the Crimean Peninsula. Missiles deployed there actually covered our territory. Bulgaria seeks to increase stability and security in the Black Sea through the enhanced NATO commitment, including a naval presence at place, as well as by increasing the capacity of the alliance's partner countries. We see NATO's increased presence as a guarantor for deterring and preventing conflicts in the region. In connection with NATO adopted forward presence measures, we have built and operate now a naval coordination element environment. Actually, this year, this center will achieve full operational capabilities. We are working to reach a consensus that the center will be part of NATO, with very important role to provide capabilities to improve situational awareness. I have personally devoted significant efforts to highlight the importance of the Black Sea region. We worked hard and now welcome the fact that the NATO Strategic Concept 2022 emphasized the strategic importance of the Black Sea region for the alliance. We are currently developing a new Bulgarian national defense strategy, which will reflect the changed security environment to NATO strategic concept and resulting activities. In this regard, I would like to highlight several elements that we consider essential in a long-term strategy. First, it is very important to ensure prosperity for our people by strengthening economic cooperation with a special focus on energy security. We must join and increase our efforts to unlock the economic potential of our region by promoting strategic investments, enhancing economic interconnectedness, and favorable conditions for trade and investment. Second, investment and prosperity follow security. Therefore, increasing political commitment and strengthening cooperation in the field of security and defense is an important element of a future strategy. To address security challenges, we are placing emphasis on modernization of defense capabilities and interoperability, including increased capacity to defend against maritime threats and to support freedom of navigation and trade. Actually, Bulgarian foreign trade, 70% goes to the Black Sea. Third, as emphasized in the NATO strategic concept, it is very important that we work together to build collective and national resilience and to counter malicious influence. Here, I specifically want to highlight the need for cooperation to counter cyber attacks and cognitive impact. In conclusion, I'll emphasize once again, Bulgaria strives to increase stability and security in the Black Sea through a strengthened NATO commitment, including a naval presence in place, as well as by increasing the capacity of the alliance's member countries and partner countries. We consider NATO's increased presence as a guarantor for deterring and preventing conflicts in the region and countering destabilizing actions by Russia. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Minister. We really hope that we'll see soon Bulgaria's strategy on the Black Sea. We know that some other countries are already working, like United States. As far as I understand, France already presented its strategy on NATO's eastern flank, including Black Sea. So it is important to have more strategic clarity. Now I would like to invite Ambassador George Magero for his introductory remarks. George, please.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Allow me to address to you by your pronoun because we have been knowing each other for such a long time. And there is no secret that we are not only partners in the think tank community, but also friends in partnership. Thank you very much for your invitation to this event. I have a difficulty in getting the right beginning for my intervention now, because there are so many angles which have been accumulated during the last 2 days of our consultations that we have already a rich palette from where to choose. I would like to start by saying that I'm coming from Romania, just north of the Danube. I'm representing here a think tank, which is in a triangular partnership with the Sofia Security Forum and with EDAM, chaired by Ambassador Tachan Ildem, on what I think is a first in our approach to the security in the Black Sea from the think tanker point of view. That is, we are embarked on a project which will be delivered within the framework of the North Atlantic community in Brussels, a project rendering the common vision of Bulgaria, Turkey, and Romania at our think tank level on the security environment in the Black Sea, indicating our perceptions of the continuity, historical continuity, and the impact of Russia's illegal aggression against Ukraine and the consequences for regional security and the alliance and European Union, and I would say the global implications for the related to the strategic role of the Black Sea. Now, I want to start by saying that we have already had established a strategic partnership with Turkey, and we have recently concluded a strategic partnership with Bulgaria. This is at government state level. And what we are trying to do at the level of the think tanks is in the more informal environment of academia and experts in international defense and security and economy, trying to deepen our mutual understanding of our common problem and trying also to deepen our own understanding of ourselves. And I want to comment here, I listened very carefully, both to the intervention of Mr. Bozhilov and to you, Your Excellency, as Deputy Minister of Defense. The idea that Bulgaria is intent on drawing up its own strategy on the Black Sea is practically a proof on the empowerment of the alliance on the security of the Black Sea from the members themselves. Because how can you contribute to the security, stability, and the defense of the Black Sea shores of NATO and European Union without first and foremost pulling on the internal resources of those countries themselves? Because they are those who know better the security environment, who know better their own capabilities, their own needs, their own contributions, and thus they are more efficient in the relation to the alliance as a whole. And I think this is one of our, let's say, our modest contributions from a think tank point of view, trying to identify which are those areas, those fields in our related national experience on one side and collective experience on the other side, enabling us to see what is the next stage for the future. And here, I think, Minister, you have pointed out to the essential economic issue, which is related to the resilience, not only in terms of the resilience of our partners in the Black Sea, Ukraine, Georgia, the Republic of Moldova. We start with the resilience of our own societies. I remember that 30 years after the end of the Cold War, in the Munich Security Conference, Ambassador Wolfgang Ischinger launched that, for me, very symbolic formula of restlessness. At that time, there was an interrogation in his concept. That concept was open also to a positive, but also to an interrogative vision of what is expecting us. 1 year later, he had another formula beyond wastelessness. And then we had 24 February 2022. And then we had to rethink everything, But I think that formula of wastelessness was already indicating the fact that 30 years after the end of the Cold War, the implosion of the Soviet Union and the war in former Yugoslavia, new realities were preparing to burst onto the geopolitical scene of Europe. But this is not only part of the new alignments in Europe and the Euro-Atlantic community, which has the blessing of having an internal coherence and having an internal logic of development, which is based on a constructive approach to a civilizational framework. When you realize that the whole edifice of international law has been subject to an earthquake affecting the whole edifice, which was established by the UN Charter, by one of the own authors of the UN Charter, when you see that the whole edifice organizing the world order after the Second World War is imploding, when you see that all the edifice of international norms of conventions is it's not only put under discussion, it is demolished, then you have to ask yourself, where are we going and what's happening? And the only reply to that is to identify what binds us. And we have found out during this fateful time since 24 February, that there are so many things that are binding us that our relations are stronger than ever. And I am speaking here on a bilateral capacity as a Romanian to a Bulgarian, and as a Romanian to a Turkish diplomat and former colleague, because we were both diplomats, but we are speaking as Romanians and Turks. We have realized that we have to act together. This was the conclusion of the North Atlantic Alliance on one side, and the conclusion of the European Union. People ask, what is the potential of the European Union in the situation of such a crisis involving military aggression? But let us think that the cohesion of the European Union in terms of sanctions is unprecedented. Not to speak our strengthened security generated by the presence of the allies on our soil, but also our increased effort. I will give you, in the case of Romania, there was a collective decision of all the political parties in Romania to reach the 2% defense budget, but then we increased from the 2% to 2.5%. Now, we are going to the Vilnius summit, where we're expecting what will be the security guarantees for Ukraine, because this is very important for us. We are supporting Ukraine. We know the risks. I will not come back to all the picture presented by Jordan, which was so detailed and comprehensive. But what we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do in this situation? And it is clear that there has been an unprecedented mobilization and solidarity in the situation we are facing. The other aspect is, I mentioned earlier, resilience. I think our societies can only get stronger because there are hybrid menaces. You have what is called new generation warfare, where you have a combination of conventional and hybrid Some call them malignant, some other call them malicious activities within our own societies. Our own societies are not perfect societies. We know that very well. But we are societies under construction. We have a positive project. It takes time, but how can you attain the positive project if you don't have peace? But if you don't have peace, you have to mobilize yourself to build peace within and to defend without. So this would be basically my message. I don't think I have to go further. It is for our government to strengthen and deepen all the concrete avenues of cooperation which open in front of us, from defense to infrastructure, critical infrastructure, to security and economic cooperation. And on our side, which is the think tank and academic dimension, what we can do, because we have a sort of longer telescope to watch the developments, is to see if we can identify trends and areas which might be helpful for the societies and for the governments in their activity. I think I can conclude here, and thank you very much once again for the event and our cooperation.
Thank you, George. Very much. I fully subscribe to what you have said, particularly your concluding remarks that our work can serve as a model for the government, but also for other structures of our societies. We discussed earlier today that there should be closer cooperation between academia. There should be closer cooperation between businesses. This is the recipe of success. Would you agree, Tatiana? Yes. Tatiana Ildem, Ambassador Tatiana Ildem, who served also as an assistant Secretary General of NATO. Tatiana.
Well, thank you, Jordan. It is a real pleasure to be in Sofia, and I fully subscribe to what has been said so far. And definitely, it is exciting that three think tanks are putting their brains to generate some new ideas. And some of them may be known, but to elevate awareness is also something that we need to concentrate on as think tankers. And since this is a public event, we utilize it for that purpose. It is a pleasure and privilege to be on this occasion at this table together with the minister with whom I had the chance to be together at NATO headquarters some years ago. And certainly it is great to continue our work. We all agree that the ongoing Russian war against Ukraine has brought a dramatic change to the security environment and in the Black Sea. Nevertheless, we can admit that it was with war in Georgia in 2008, and especially with the illegal and illegitimate annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014, and its aggressive policies implemented in eastern Ukraine that in fact brought certain changes for the Black Sea security. What they have done in a very systematic manner was to utilize protracted conflicts in the wider Black Sea region to their advantage, to create room of strategic maneuvering, and at the same time, since 2014, with the military buildup in the Crimean Peninsula, to create anti-access and area denial capabilities which sort of impeded activities of the alliance to a certain extent. But more importantly, they also used the Crimean Peninsula as a platform to project power to the south. At NATO, we always talk about 360-degree approach, and we always highlight the importance of looking at every direction. That's why in the case of Turkey, Russia was not an entity to look at the east, but in the south as well. When you look at their involvement in Syria and Libya, we may qualify their activities to be encirclement of Europe from the south as well. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that it would be essential also in any assessment that we are going to make to take into account the existence of the protracted conflicts, and also the A2AD capacity that they have built and how to counter it, but also to take into account the geographical continuum from Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean without considering Black Sea as an isolated geography. I think it would be strategic for us to look at it with such a comprehensive perspective. And I must also admit that in the discussions related to the Black Sea, especially within NATO framework, the focus was more on the maritime domain. Whereas what we know is that the activities of Russia was going far beyond one domain. And I think it would be essential to have a multi-domain, multidisciplinary perspective to better equip ourselves in countering those existing threats that we have. Now, coming to Turkey's approach to Black Sea security, well, Turkey has always advocated feasible, affordable, and sustainable solutions to Black Sea security. And in that respect, Turkey has supported the alliance presence in the Black Sea, also to show unity and solidarity among allies. It is extremely important to have not only the riparian allied states present, and it is essential that we project such deterrent value added in the region, but also to have the support of other allies. We have to confess, perhaps NATO's and allies' contributions were not as strategic and calculated as it was in the case of Russia in the past. But in any case, we have now different attempts to boost deterrence and defense in the region. And the multi-domain approach will definitely strengthen our capacity in that respect. Of course, projecting deterrent and defense in the region by the alliance is important, but equally important is also to distance ourselves from any attempt of provocation. And that brings me to the importance of escalation management. We have to be careful in our actions, not to be reason for escalation or spillover of any conflict to the Black Sea region. After all, these three countries live in this geography, and their priorities and interests are above all interests of others. This brings me to an important issue which is dear to the heart of the Turks. It is for any action to be in accordance with international law. And I think we are united in this statement, because NATO is one alliance with all its acts to be compatible with international law. Montreux Convention is definitely an inseparable part of international law. When you look at what had happened after 24th of February last year, although Russia was claiming it to be a special operation, special military operation, Turkey was bold enough after 3 days of the launching of this operation to qualify it as war, and according to Montreux Convention, to invoke Article 19 to close the straits to warships. And I think more and more the value added of the implementation of Montreux Convention is better understood by our friends, allies, but also foes in that respect. Now, a few things regarding the future course of action. First, in this global strategic competition, Black Sea security will be felt, the need to have a proper strategy for Black Sea would be felt more and more. And that's why this meeting and what we had embarked upon to come up with the findings of our joint project is valuable. We are in a way putting Black Sea on the map. It is good, but at the same time, we should be cognizant of the sensitivities of this new security environment with global strategic competition. The second thing I need to highlight is, again, to stick in our work to have this holistic approach to geographical continuum. And I think it would be important also to see Black Sea as a transit corridor for in energy resources, food supply, and therefore this geographical continuum is also quite relevant. And when we look at what Russia was trying to achieve by using the Crimean Peninsula in projecting power to the south, this also necessitates this comprehensive geographical approach. I mentioned, but I highlight as a wrap-up of my findings regarding Black Sea security. In any assessment, this ongoing protracted conflicts should be taken account, since all transnational threats, be they radicalization, be it smuggling of light weapons, and all other organized crime, requires us to have this in our considerations. Now, regional ownership has been yet another important salient feature of Turkey's approach to Black Sea security. And when we talk about regional ownership, we are unfortunately far distant today to have all stakeholders, including Russia, to be part of this regional ownership. So Russia's future will determine how they will fit in any security architecture of the future. But right now, the important thing is for us to prioritize our efforts to bolster trilateral cooperation. This morning in our discussion, Minister Shalamanov, in fact, was rightly referring to some of the examples that exist in the alliance. In the north, they were quite smart in bringing together allied nations to have this enhanced cooperation. And Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey should be able to join hands in having this regional cooperation as a new meaning of the regional ownership. In that respect, of course, emerging and disruptive technologies would be one focus area, since Minister rightly mentioned about the importance of capability development. And there are some potentials in the existing capacities of individual countries, including my own, which could be the right basis in having joint ventures for the specificities of the Black Sea region in creating such capabilities. So I stop here. Once again, thank you for this opportunity to share our perspectives with this esteemed audience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tatiana, for your comprehensive presentation of Turkish position toward Black Sea security. I think it's very important for our countries to know each other's perspective, to know better what are our individual concerns, but also capacities, policies, etc., etc. So knowing each other, we'll be able to move forward and try to be up to the risks and threats, but also to find the best way how to cope with it. We have probably Alexandra Antakova on VTC. Alexandra, hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you. Alexandra, thank you very much for your support and for the support of the NATO's public diplomacy division, because this project is not only sponsored, but co-organized and coordinated with NATO. Hopefully, by September, October, we will be able to present to you our findings and our analysis. But now I invite you to address our audience.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you today online, unfortunately, from Brussels, and to participate in such an interesting discussion. I want to thank all the previous speakers for contributing to that crucial subject. I want to thank you particularly, Jordan, for this invitation and for organizing events that stimulate our common values and interests, because this is a very critical time for European and global security, as you have all highlighted. I know that the time is limited, so let me start my intervention a bit backwards from the conclusion by saying that what you have already mentioned, actually, that military forces are necessary, but they are not enough anymore. That modern conflict is about far more than just guns and tanks. And we must be every bit as concerned with the protection of our critical infrastructure, along with our supply chains, cyberspace, and space assets. And therefore, this is a message that I want everyone to carry with you. today that we need to strengthen the resilience of our societies, actually, because resilient societies are our first line of defense, and we are better able to deter, we are better able to resist, and also to bounce back from any attack, be it physical or digital. So our societies need to be resilient to the hybrid warfare. And I was very pleased to hear former speakers and also Mr. Maghiru talking about societal resilience. Let me outline briefly now some characteristics that are very crucial for hybrid warfare. First, as also Mr. Ildem mentioned and stressed out, is that they challenge the rules-based international order. And we can see state and non-state actors taking part in those. They also use combination of conventional and unconventional means, and they aim directly to the adversary's vulnerabilities, creating ambiguity, deniability, but also destabilization. In most of the cases, the aim is to avoid the direct military confrontation. So hybrid warfare scenarios include sophisticated cyber attacks, complex propaganda, disinformation campaigns, coordinated political and economic pressure. All those together or alone, they could undermine the ability of a country to respond to such threats. And this is the case that we face right now. About Russia, what Russia is using, which type of hybrid toolbox is using to threaten the global society security, especially with the brutal aggression against Ukraine. Almost everything. Clearly, Russia has a hybrid strategy. It uses energy blackmail, nuclear rhetoric, broader economic pressure. It also uses sophisticated hostile information activities, disruption in critical infrastructure, disruptions in maritime security, but also in the supply chains. Its main goal is to question, actually, the European and international security architecture, and to strengthen its influence and cause instability to its neighborhood. And Black Sea is included to that. And to ensure success, Kremlin is using the full spectrum of hybrid capabilities during peacetime, during crisis, but also during conflict. Russia implements disinformation campaigns, a subject that you're all very familiar with. Russia exercises propaganda tools, along with disinformation, anti-NATO and anti-EU campaigns. And following that tactic, it seeks to preserve and decrease the influence in the countries of the Western Balkans, and not only, by exploiting various regional vulnerabilities, as you all have mentioned before. It uses non-state actors to undermine trust and confidence to democratic values and principles. And it also forces destabilizing influence also in the Black Sea region, the Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa included. Let's move on now to a subject on what NATO is doing, what allies are doing to counter hybrid threats. In June 2022 in Madrid, as you mentioned before, allies agreed and adopted the new strategic concept. That was to reflect the new security reality. That document sets out how we address other challenges, like the ongoing threat of terrorism, cyber, hybrid, new technologies, and the implications of climate change in our security. And it also underlines the strategic importance of the Black Sea region. And before that, in 2015, NATO adopted the strategy on countering hybrid warfare. This is an approach to ensure resilience and effective response against hybrid threats. Allow me a snapshot of the strategy. In the strategy, NATO's role is framed under three interrelated functions: to prepare, to deter, and to defend. To prepare is mostly about building situational awareness, getting ready to timely identify the threat and prevent escalation to military conflict. And to achieve that, we gather, we share, and we assess information, while at the same time, we invest in education, training, and exercise. NATO has the expertise and can act as a hub of expertise in building resilience, meaning civil preparedness, critical infrastructure protection, strategic communication, protection of civilians, cyber defense, energy security, and counterterrorism. Moving on to the second pillar of the strategy, to deter. That means to convince a potential adversary that it's not worth it. Given the comprehensive nature of the hybrid threats, deterrence requires twofold approach, and this is a constantly undertaken broad deterrence, which refers, among others, to military presence and the ability to rapidly deploy forces, and a reactive, case-by-case targeted approach applied once the threat is positively determined. The third pillar of the strategy is to defend, meaning to defeat the threat and limit adversaries' freedom of action by initiating appropriate military measures, being prepared to assist allies' internal security measures and mitigate the effects on civilian population or critical infrastructure. Also, NATO has maintained the counter-hybrid support teams. Through capacity building programs, NATO continues to support partners' efforts to counter hybrid challenges. There is also the European Centre of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats in Helsinki, Finland, that facilitates such requests and coordinates help. NATO also provides a platform to ensure that allies and NATO responses are coherent across the spectrum. But NATO, unfortunately or fortunately, can only lead in the military element. No one nation, no one international organization can effectively deal with the totality of a hybrid strategy alone. As you talked before about the 360-degree approach, or how multidimensional or multi-domain is the hybrid warfare, the answer to that is that cooperation and coordination with partners is needed. This is why NATO also, in the third joint declaration with the EU, has identified new avenues of deeper cooperation on resilience, on cyber, on new technologies, on space, on climate change and security. Moreover, NATO is working right now to increase the protection of our critical national infrastructure, including undersea cables and pipelines. NATO allies recently decided to establish a new critical undersea infrastructure coordination cell. It will engage with industry and bring key military and civilian stakeholders together to boost the security of our undersea infrastructure. The establishment of the cell aims at preparing the alliance and deter possible adversaries. But NATO, and especially the Public Diplomacy Division, is also working to counter hostile information, including disinformation. NATO's approach relies on fact-based, credible public communications. In 2022, clear, calm, and credible, but also proactive communications have been central to every stage of NATO's response to Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Reaching the end of my intervention, let me go back to the beginning and stress once more the importance of resilience. NATO continues to adapt, and it's focused on strengthening our resilience against all types of threats and challenges. Allies, though, have also agreed that's part of the complementarity to enhance their resilience as part of the NATO 2030 initiative. And we are now developing national resilience goals and implementation plans, even against hybrid attacks. And that's because resilient societies remain always our first line of defense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandra. And we are all looking to the upcoming NATO summit and what the allied nations will decide on all critical issues, including on Black Sea security. Thank you once again for your support and for the support of the Public Diplomacy Division. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Velizar Shalamanov for his intervention. Please, Verizar.
Thank you, Jordan. It's really a privilege to be part of this consultation process in support of development of NATO strategy, sorry, for Black Sea. First thing, and I will start with open discussion that we had in Bucharest beginning of previous month on strategic foresight analysis. So we need to agree on the framework. And the framework is that the post-Soviet era is gone. We are entering period of very intensive changes that will happen next 5-10 years. And only after that we'll have opportunity to adapt to these changes. But this period will be quite turbulent, and it is important we as NATO members in this region of change to be united and to have a common approach, to have good consultations as we currently have. Second important thing is that, again, we have to recognize that in comparison to the north of the East, as it was mentioned by Ambassador Eldam, we are a little bit in delay of consolidating our part of NATO. It means everything that was developed after 2014 for the Baltic region, Poland, everything related to enhanced forward presence, other initiatives was not fully implemented in our area. And now with this regional ownership approach, we need to consolidate our efforts to make a clear proposal to other NATO allies in order to accelerate this process of acceleration and, as it was mentioned by Deputy Minister Zaprianov, to attract our allies for more visible contribution, but to what we want as a regional group of NATO nations, including development of forward defense with the enhancement of the battle groups, more capabilities in the area of maritime surveillance, air defense, again, in support to what we as regional NATO members working with the two partners, Ukraine and Georgia, could develop. This will require, this regional ownership and this Formula 3+2 in NATO will require proper governance. Of course, we all rely on the governance structure established through the Washington Treaty, and it is working pretty well. But when it comes to regional approach, to regional ownership, we need to develop effective governance mechanism. And this includes mobilizing resources, because good intentions will not help us. We need millions and millions of euro to be invested in defense, hundreds of millions to be invested in defense, including through regional industrial cooperation, innovation, and training of our people. It is very important. And in this area, I want to share some ideas we are discussing in academic community, because it was mentioned several times by my colleagues, we need all of government approach, actually all of society approach. And it means academic community to be seriously involved. We have very good example in the past, because in the academic community, we started to work on issues related to civil protection, computer-assisted exercises. And because of that, Bulgaria was prepared to announce the Center of Excellence on Crisis Management and Disaster Relief. That is actually a regional center with Romania involved, Hungary involved, Poland. We could expect Turkey to join us, Greece is involved. So this is a good example. And now, in all the interventions, I see two other topics that are of high interest for us in academic community. One, of course, is cyber defense. We just finished a large EU project of building a European network of centers of excellence in cybersecurity. And we start new project on building European digital innovation hub in Plovdiv with focus on cybersecurity. So we believe this type of project could really coordinate involvement of all the stakeholders to have this as a regional hub and to share experience. Other area that was mentioned several times is countering disinformation and propaganda and strategic communication. We already started a project with Romania, this is Bulgarian-Romanian Observatory of Digital Media, and we are moving forward with the national efforts of improved toolbox, including new technologies based on artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, to support people dealing with countering disinformation. This is the area where, again, academic community working with government and attracting regional interest could achieve a lot more, simply because, of course, there are general approaches, but there are a lot of sensitivities and specific issues in our region. And it is not related only with Russia, it is related with Global South, it is related with China. So we could work much closer in this area and to develop a regional network that support our work. Definitely, Diana was mentioned, we already have this great cooperation on one side, Ministry of Defense, on the other side, Sofia University and Academy of Sciences to develop test centers and to build accelerators, to get in touch with other accelerators in the region, to mention Turkey. Other aspect that is of critical importance when we are talking about resilience is it starts with education and training. It starts with modern education and training technologies. So we are working on e-learning platform that utilizes the most effective micro-learning and adaptive learning methodology, again, based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, that is providing based on small, effective models of learning to provide the best possible approach to different audiences to get known about important instruments to be used in their work. And this is reduces time and made learning much more effective. So these are the areas where we could contribute to the efforts. And what I want to finish with, as we discussed in the morning, I see great opportunity for closer cooperation between Academy of Sciences in Bulgaria, TÜBİTAK in Turkey, Romanian Academy of Sciences, Ukrainian Academy of Sciences, when it comes to security and defense. Because this is the main lesson from Ukraine. At the end of the day, yes, all the weapons provided by Western allies, especially new technology from Turkey with Bayraktar, etc., are very useful. But at the end of the day, Starlink, social networks, artificial intelligence, big data applications, this is what is making Ukrainian forces much more effective than what the Russians could deliver. And if we really want to be effective in the future, more resilient to prevent future crises, to reduce the risk, not to be surprised again and again, it is time through Diana platform, through other models, to engage academia, to engage universities in really implementing the most innovative ideas for security and defense on one side, on the other side to prevent these technologies to be taken over by our opponents, because this is another big challenge as well. Now the technologies are accessible to too many people, and some of them could misuse them if we don't have a well-established system. It means education of people in academia as well, to be responsible when they do research, when they develop instruments that first of all need to be used for the better life of people, not to feed hybrid warfare technology used by our opponents. And we see Russia is exactly doing this. Every innovation, first goal in hands of people that are creating troubles to us, to our democracies. So this is our message from academic community. There are a lot of good examples from the past. recently there are important areas where we could contribute, and really using this all of society approach, focusing on regional cooperation in the framework of NATO, and engaging our two partners, Ukraine and Georgia, we really could achieve much more in next several years. And to be sure, there will be a lot of changes. So whatever we are discussing now, in 1 or 2 years will be changed. So we have to develop this culture of change management until we reach a more stable environment to which we will adapt. And it will take another 20 years. Sorry to say this, but this is the reality. The last 30 years were the easier. The next 20 will be much more challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you for bringing this academic point of view or viewpoint of academia. We can only commend scientists for developing closer cooperation in the framework of different NATO initiatives, because we really need the high-level capabilities, which will, of course, give us advantage to all our adversaries. Thank you very much. And now our last but not least in the program, we have Matthew Boyce from Hudson Institute, who will join us from United States. Matthew, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good morning.
Oh, good. Yes, good morning, good afternoon. Okay, so hello and greetings from Washington. Thanks for the invitation to join this distinguished panel and this distinguished conference today. Kudos to you, Jordan, for bringing us together on this incredibly important topic, and it really couldn't be more topical or timely or relevant. And of course, the risk of speaking last is so there's this great German phrase, alles ist schon gesagt worden, nur nicht von mir, which means everything has already been said, but just not by me. So I'll try to say something that actually hasn't been said by others, although that may be difficult because there were a lot of very, very interesting remarks. I strongly agree with your remarks, Jordan, and those of the other speakers. It's really great to see the work and the attention that you're paying to this, and others are working on Black Sea security. It's really music to my ears, and I would guess that others in the United States who follow these issues closely are probably very pleased to see how much attention you're paying to this now. This is because I must say that, I mean, it sort of seems like the news is like every day we see new outrages from Russia in its war against Ukraine, and which of course directly impacts Black Sea security. I mean, if Russian attacks the other day on civilian targets in Odessa were not enough, including a recent one on this very serious hard military target like McDonald's, that sometimes from Crimea and sometimes from ships in the broader Black Sea region. Now the littoral states have to deal with this massive environmental devastation resulting from Russia's attack against the Novakhovka Dam. I mean, it's from a distance. It's not clear exactly to me how far this toxic brew has gone. The chemicals and heavy metals and pesticides and sewage and oil and garbage and God knows what else. But it will probably have a long-term effect on not only on the region, the Dnieper River and its environment, but also the Black Sea itself. And of course, I would imagine that Romania and Bulgaria will face consequences soon of that if they haven't already, and that that probably will stretch to Georgia and Turkey. The ecosystems will suffer, and you have the region will be a polluted wasteland for a long time. And then of course there's the effect on tourism in the Black Sea coast in Romania and Bulgaria this summer. I don't think this is an exaggeration really to call it environmental terrorism, ecocide, but and governments I think have criticized this rather strongly, but of course, there's not very much, and all we're here is denials and disinformation from Russia. And I mean, it's if environmental NGOs have been engaging on this, it hasn't been very loud or very visible. And And then, of course, there's the sea mines that we've all talked about, and periodic firing by Russia on commercial shipping, and of course, the threat recent by Putin to stop grain shipments with its global consequences. But anyway, I digress. It's really terrific to see this this greater cooperation from you all, from your three think tanks on Black Sea security. I mean, there is really a good work, very good work being done on Black Sea security in Bulgaria. I mean, the Maritime Coordination Center in Varna, the Center for the Study of Democracies with Konrad Adenauer for support on that countering the Kremlin playbook, and of course your conference. Your conference is great. Although I must, if you offer me one, allow me one kind of one other remark here. I mean, it seems like sometimes from a distance that, and I've been watching Black Sea issues for a number of years now. It sometimes seems from a distance that there's been a little bit less interest in Bulgaria on this issue and than in some other littoral states. So, I mean, and this may be an erroneous observation, but from a DC perspective, Washington perspective, I mean, it seems the Bulgarian input into the discussion, into the debate about Black Sea security has been a bit less visible, and it is extremely valuable, and more would really be welcome. So, because Bulgaria has a lot to contribute on these issues, and I hope you and others do a lot more. I look forward to some of the work, to seeing some of the work that you all do. That this cooperation between your three think tanks is terrific. So please keep it up. And of course, I think it's probably also a reasonable observation that we haven't quite seen as much visibility from Turkey on Black Sea issues as well. I mean, must be a lot going on there, but it isn't quite as visible. So anything that you all can, that would be just very, very, very welcome. But there's probably a lot of interest in the room on the Black Sea strategy that the Biden administration is working on, as was mandated by that legislation that everyone probably heard about that Senator Romney and Senator Shaheen had proposed in their legislation. And there's a companion bill in the House with Representatives Turner and Keating. I can't tell you exactly when that strategy will be released, but it is being very, very eagerly awaited. Secretary Blinken said a few months ago that he expects it by June, which means we still have a couple of weeks left to go. But hope that release date doesn't slip. I mean, the Black Sea region is, of course, a dynamic environment, and target dates can slip, as we've seen with the German national security strategy yesterday. But in any case, I mean, when we do see it, I hope it will say something significant and not just repeat what we already know, because we already know a lot. I mean, in fact, you could even say that there's a certain sort of cottage industry that's arisen in the United States of think tanks and papers and think pieces, reports on Black Sea security that have been published in recent years. I mean, I have a stack of papers on my desk that's probably a foot tall of reports and papers and articles, and et cetera, that it seems like every think tank is publishing on the subject. And these are, of course, all excellent at describing the situation and the challenges, et cetera. But they often are not all that great in providing what we really need. And that means yesable and doable roadmaps and like concrete action plans and suggestions for improving the situation. There have been, of course, positive developments on Black Sea coming from out of the Madrid summit and NATO strategic concept. Finally, we had other like senior military people like Admiral Fogo and others talking up the importance of the region. And of course, the Secretary of State last year said that the Black Sea was an area of vital strategic importance to us and to NATO. So these are all great, but I think we do need to. I mean, NATO, its member states, and the EU needs to pay more attention to the Black Sea region because of the war, but not only because of the war. I mean, you all are much more familiar with how the significance of the Black Sea over the millennia and of its geopolitical and its geoeconomic significance. But, and I don't, of course, I don't need to tell you why that's important, but you know, I think it is. I think I could offer something about, you know, I don't know, a bold statement that it's not only in the interests of the West, the EU, the US, the EU, Western Europe, Western Balkans, etc. But I think we can say that it's not in our interest that the Black Sea become a Russian lake. I mean, I think we can probably say that the correlation of forces in the Black Sea area, which, to use an old Soviet concept, has been moving in that direction in recent years, and it really cannot be allowed to happen. And even if the Turkish leaders have sometimes used that phrase, well, perhaps not for a number of years, at least as far as I've noticed, but you know, it's not moving in the right direction, at least as far as compared to where it was, you know, in you know, as little as 10 years ago. So, I mean, that is sort of why Russia must lose this war, and that Ukraine must win. And of course, it may be simplistic that the future of the Black Sea will depend on the outcome of the war, Russia's war against Ukraine. But here again, I mean, to paraphrase something that Ronald Reagan once said about the Cold War, it is in this particular case, Ukraine must win and Russia must lose, because a Black Sea region that is unstable, or actually it will be unstable as long as Crimea remains in Russian hands. And in that sense, I join my former boss Ben Hodges and Kurt Volker and others in stressing really that the geostrategic importance of Crimea and the importance of vigorous efforts to help Ukraine restore control over it and to counter Russia in order for the region really to have a chance to return to where it was until Russia went on the offensive. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, but some things can be done. Demining NATO, freedom of navigation operations, more explicit warnings to Russia regarding commercial shipping, which really kind of faces the equivalent of threats of piracy. Odessa must be supported to keep that open and viable. And then, of course, there are many more concrete actions that can be taken. But because we have to sort of ask ourselves, what happens if Crimea stays in Russian control? Russia will use Crimea as a platform to destabilize and strangle Ukraine and try to turn it into a failed state, dependent on others, on donors, for its survival and success. And it will use its perch there, its unsinkable aircraft carrier there to threaten Black Sea shipping, to hold food shipments to the world hostage, to threaten energy assets located in the Black Sea and other infrastructure assets, by the way, supply chains, you name it, strategic infrastructure, all that traverses the Black Sea and the Black Sea region. And so it just seems to me that that the littoral states in particular have a special role in strengthening their coastal defenses and air defense systems. They're strengthening their deterrence and their resilience, the resilience of their populations, et cetera. And now, of course, that's easier. I mean, it's a little harder to decide to increase the size of their navies, but they can do other things. And that's really important. I mean, it's unfortunate that Ukraine has had to diversify its trade routes, land routes, because the sea routes, of course, are a lot more efficient. But that land route, those land routes that require so much investment and are extremely expensive, and it'll never be as economical as using the Black Sea itself as the way it used to be used just for normal trade. We really do need more concrete action plans and to work harder at implementing that their features. And I mean, it's as I just maybe to finish now, that it really is it's terrific what the work you're doing here, and I can't be happier that you all are working together on this issue, because you have so much to contribute and so much more situational domain awareness, and you have so much more. It's your backyard, and I really thank you for concentrating your attention on this and your brain power and this, and I'm just really happy also to support you in this work going ahead to the extent that I can. So, in any case, I'll just stop there and thank you again for the invitation to join you and to hear your thoughts. And so, yeah, good. We'll stop there. Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, for bringing U.S. perspective, or rather perspective from United States to our conference, because we consider United States to be an important player for providing security in the region. And now, looking at my watch, I have to say that we have about 15 minutes for comments or questions to our panelists. Please just raise your hand. Yeah, this microphone, please. Yeah, it's working. Okay.
Thank you very much for the invitation to Jordan, and congratulations to all the panelists. Those of you who know me, I am coming from the academic environment, and those who don't know, so I'm Professor Minchev at the Academy of Science. So my question is about something that Professor Shalamanov mentioned. So very much important is institutional cooperation, but another thing that is more important to have a strategic planning, because all the analysts that are talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, and now the deterring aspects that are coming from NATO, and they are obviously visible the last year, require some strategic planning both locally and in the NATO format. How do you commend this, the progressive part of this? Thank you very much, by adding both technologies and people in this sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll take one or two more questions, if there are any.
Is it possible to ask via the Zoom call? Yes, no?
Yeah, it is possible to ask. Who is asking?
Mario Marinov from Unibit. I think I'm the only participant on the Zoom call, so thank you. And a very wonderful conference within the whole format. It has been always a pleasure to watch and to listen, because I'm also writing on this subject, and it's quite an important
Please
one.
keep short.
Okay, so my first question is basically the following. When we discuss ensuring an increased deterrence state, in especially a conventional deterrence state, we talked about increasing maritime capabilities. However, as the colleague from Turkey stated, this would not go in line with international commitments. So I'm wondering, what are the approaches towards increasing conventional deterrence, considering that increasing maritime presence would be difficult for Bulgaria and Romania, and also difficult in international terms? And also in this sense, the debate on security investment versus economic investment in areas of contention have been present also in the Baltic and in the Arctic. How do you view the dialectic relationship between increasing military presence in the Black Sea for the sake of securing future economic investment, but at the same time, future economic investment withdrawing due to increased militarization? How do you view this train of thought and discussion which has existed in the past? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last question from the audience.
Yeah, I also like to thank you for your compelling points, and my question was also brief. How would you think do NATO and the European Union need to develop a kind of 2C strategy to interconnect the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea? Because as we know, Russia draws its strategic line from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean due to the presence of a Russian naval base in Syria.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Zapranov, who will start?
Okay, about coordination in the area of defense activities. Yes, we have very well organized planning especially defense planning and operation planning. And we are actually in a good position being NATO member states, Turkey, Romania, and Bulgaria. These activities are led by strategic commander. Bulgaria is participating and all NATO members are participating, which means speaking about maritime capabilities, NATO takes care to enhance its presence in the Black Sea. This is my answer.
Thank you. Tachan, would take the question also on
Well, if I understood the question correctly, Turkey does not have any sort of mental restrictions regarding boosting of deterrence and defense in maritime domain. What I emphasized in my statement was to have a more holistic approach, multi-domain approach, not only looking at the maritime domain, but also land, air, maritime, and cyber domains in a comprehensive manner. Because when we think about the time from 2014 to 2022, and even bringing it back to 2008, the confrontation was more it was more land-centric than maritime-centric. But in any case, we should not put aside any domain, including maritime, but it should not be something to focus on one domain only. I mean, we should have a comprehensive approach to see all necessary means and capabilities to be boosted in all domains, not only maritime.
Yeah, some of our other panelists would like also to add. Yeah,
Yes, I would try to give answer to the three questions together, and it is with the title of our conference. It is about NATO approach to the Black Sea security from strategic point of view. Because up to now, there were a lot of efforts led by Turkey, a lot of efforts led by Romania, not so much efforts, but still initiatives from Bulgaria, and it is not working such a way. We are in very complex region, and Russia plays this specific game to keep us fragmented. So the best approach to solve this challenge is through strategic unity, regional ownership, and using the full toolbox of NATO to support our regional strategy. And I think through such type of consultations, we are reaching the point. Other dimension that again is very well presented in this project is this whole of society approach. Engaging this comprehensive approach, engaging academia, engaging industry, and engaging our partners. Because even our 3 member states are not enough if we really want to achieve strategic progress. We really need to engage Ukraine and Georgia, and specifically Ukraine, because on one side, Russia wants to destroy the Ukraine, or at least to isolate Ukraine from the Black Sea. And such type of approach is just division. But if we are able to reach to strategic approach, unity of our region, building real NATO identity on our side, I think we will solve all this problem. And this is most important for deterrence. We are not in a position to deter Russia only with weapons, because obviously they are nuclear power and they have a lot of military forces. but being united, being really a strong pillar for the region from NATO, it is what will deter Russia. And Ukraine has proven that when they are united and when they are ready to fight, the second largest army in the world is useless.
A very brief, I would say, addition to what has been said, and I'm in full agreement with my previous interlocutors about the question between institutional cooperation and strategic planning. I remember a couple of years ago, recently, former Romanian Prime Minister, who was then Chief of the General Staff, had a meeting with our think tank community. And he said that what has to be developed and enforced is strategic culture. And I think this is the missing link between institutional cooperation and strategic planning. Strategic planning is a discipline. The military people know what it's all about. Strategic culture is beyond. It involves the big, also political, and to quote Ambassador Ilem, the holistic perspective, not only in geographical terms. This is one point. The other point, and turning back to the holistic approach, what we are trying to do here together, and we have already several stages of our cooperation, is to combine our respective holistic approaches. What was not mentioned is the fact that Romania and Bulgaria share the longest Danubian border, north and south. And we were speaking earlier, you need to have this alternative communication link. You have the major Bosphorus, which is, and we discussed about the Montreux Convention. And this is the historical role of Turkey as guardian of the gates, how to say. But you have a clogging. Mention was made previously on the freedom of navigation and the liberation of communication, connectivity, and so on. The Danube has the vocation of connecting not only the Black Sea, but beyond the Black Sea to the east and south, but also Western Europe and through the Rhine, reaching to the North Sea. And you mentioned General Hodges. I think he is the best, how to say, expert on mobility. But the mobility is not only the military dimension, it is here, mention was made of both NATO and EU. I think also the European project is not finished before the Danube and the Black Sea acquire their potential. We are not there yet because a war is going on, but we have also to think beyond the 20 years you are mentioning, but we have also to think in the positive terms of a project. The project is finally opening up the gates. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. We are discussing Black Sea security concept or approach, Black Sea strategy of NATO. Actually, this is not a new idea. I remember we started talking about NATO's strategic approach to Black Sea many years ago. Why we don't have such a document after so many years? And one of the explanation is that for years our three countries couldn't come with common understanding, common approaches, common strategies even. So that's why I think, and I feel positive. I mean, I feel optimistic that finally NATO will adopt such a strategy, because our work showed that we have a lot of in common. Our three tanks shows that our countries should work much closer together on different levels. And I do believe that with the support of Ministry of Defense, Ministries of Foreign Affairs, we will move forward in this direction. We have also have on board like-minded organizations, and I'm looking to Norbert Beckman, who is head of Sofia office of Konrad Adenauer Foundation, and I consider the foundation as such a partner. And thank you, Norbert, for working with us to organize this Sofia event, which proved to be very, very successful with very rich discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the end of our session, but before closing, I would like once again to ask you to applaud Atanas Zaprianov, Ambassador George Marghero, Ambassador Tatiana Dem, Alexander Antakoyo, Velizar Shilamanov, and Matthew Boyce for contributing to our discussion. Please join me in giving warm applause. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon on our other events. Have a good